Knock, knock, let the devil in. Malevolent as I've ever been. Head is spinning, this medicine screaming. Dick, 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 medicine. Knock, knock, let the devil in. Malevolent as I've ever been. Head is spinning, this medicine screaming. Dick, dick, dick.
Alright everybody, hello, welcome back to my channel. If this is your first time, I'll say it like I always do. I talk about my 10 years in prison, drugs, prostitute tales, fights I lost, never the fights I won, you know, stuff like that. I do some stock stuff, you know, cryptocurrency, and some of my VR games. But today, by Wayno, I forgot the 3 numbers. He requested this video as well. And like I said, I'll always make a requested video if they're requested. If you're coming back and, you know, watching again, thank you very much. I love the fact that I have like 40,000 views. It may not be a lot to the million guys, but it's a lot to me, you know, so I appreciate that. But today I'm going to tell you how to make a gun in prison. You know, gun is just another word for banger. A banger is just another word for like a shank. You know, that's the best way I could explain it. Like a knife. You know what I mean? But it could be also a poker, so it doesn't have to be a knife. So, yeah, I love this stuff. I buy them all the time. They're like 89 cents. I put them in the freezer, eat them frozen. All right. I did that. So I have a lot of like knowledge on how to make them. It's a little harder now because I don't think any prisons have them. But as I was getting towards the end of my bid, they were getting rid of those beds and putting flat steel beds, same bed frame size, but instead of having springs, like where your mattress sits on the springs, and it's actually pretty comfortable for prison, you know. They made it straight flat metal, you know, because people like me. What it had is all these springs going, big ones, you know, like that big, you know, like that big, going all the way down, like 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, on the bed. I'm looking at my bed, that's why I'm saying, like, this is my headboard, and right there is the end of it. And to hold the springs, like, kind of sturdy and together, they had these metal clips, that shape, like, that shape. It's hard to fucking make sure you know. Like what a horseshoe is, but those parts on a horseshoe really down, like that, but tiny, you know, like that big when it was folded. And all I had to do was I took my lock. Most of the time I took my lock. I would take my lock and bend that piece of metal up as much as I can, right in front of the fucking COs. You know, it's crazy. And once I got it up enough, you know, I try to push the big springs. They were, you know, hard to push together, and then take that one part off, and then just bend the other part off by holding that one and just taking it right off. So then I go to like the corner of my cube. I mean, you can go anywhere, but I went to the corners of my cube, and you know, because I was in cubes, you know, when I was doing this. I was in one of the regular, what do they call them, cookie cutter buildings and shit. I'd go to the corner of my cube and stick it in there and bend it. And then the other side, bend it. So now I got a straight piece of metal, pretty strong metal. It ain't breaking. Put it that way, it's not breaking. About that big. I'll give you about, I would say, about that big. You know what I mean? About that big. Just so you could know. But it was a thin metal. It wasn't that thick. It was thinner than a pencil. It was like this. It was a little thinner than this. Than this screwdriver. And it was about that big. You know what I mean? Only a little thinner than that screwdriver. But then I would take one of the state toothbrushes, and you know, you can smoke in prison, so you got lighters and everything like that, lighters, matches, whatever. And I'd burn the middle part, you know, where you brush. It has that bristle part, then it gets a little thin, then it gets thick again for the handle. I would put the lighter to where it gets thin, and take the bristle part off, and then slam the toothbrush against something to make it flat. So now I got a toothbrush with a flat top. Then I take the lighter, heat up the metal that I took, and push it in the lighter because it was hot, and push it in the lighter, push it in the toothbrush handle, and it would go in a little bit. And it's plastic, so if hot metal, it's gonna go through. It'll burn its way through. I'd have to do it quite a number of times to get it deep enough, because you never want to, if you're fighting and you miss, or you know, you're catching them in the cold or something like that, you don't want your gun to fall apart. You're done if that happens and shit. So I'd put it in a lot. So you would have about still this much sticking out. You know what I mean? And then what I would do is I would put a lighter to where it's, you know, connected, and then, you know, with a wet tissue, I would go like that and spin it to where it went up a little bit more, so it held it a little more. You know, I pulled the plastic up and I spun the plastic. Then after that, I would take, you know, like this t-shirt piece of, you know, the state shirt. You know, you get state shirts. People have millions of them and shit. And then I would just rip a piece off, and then I'd go into the bathroom of the cookie cutters, and then I would wrap the handle, wrap it like a samurai sword, wrap it on an angle like a samurai sword, and then when I get to the part where it connects, you know, I wrap it around a few times straightly. So it's like a samurai sword 80% of the way, and the last 20 is straight a couple times, and then I put it through a hole and I fucking yank it, and it's tight. It's not, the handle's not falling apart. So now you got a handle and a piece of metal sticking out. That's dull, that's flat. That's not going to do nothing. Well, that would do something, but that's not going to do what you're trying to do. So I would go into the bathroom, and they got grout, you know, on their tiles, in between the tiles, in the cookie cutter. Other places, the bathrooms, you really couldn't do it in a lot of them, like in the bathrooms. Like, it was different. It was, you know, it wasn't a cookie cutter. It was its own type of building. And but the cookie cutters had it. They all had it because they're the same buildings. That's why they call them cookie cutters. But you go in the bathroom and you start sharpening it on the floor, on the grout. You keep sharpening it, and I swear, if you got to spend time though, you could get that motherfucker like a pin, like starting, not a pin needle, but you know, starting like a sharp, like more than that. Like I'd have like that much of it sharpened into a point, a serious point. And I thought those were the best. You know what I mean? Of course, when I was up in there, I did me. De corazón, you know, 1.50, you know what I mean? My bros I look out for, my manitos, and my LI friends, because I fuck with LI, you know what I mean? I'm from LI, and we would shout each other out, yo, LI, what up, LI? You know, because in prison, all this, like, yeah, I guess called towns and cities and stuff, because there's cities upstate. I didn't know that. Because they'd say, yeah, in the city, and I'm like, New York City, you mean? Or like, by you? They'd be like, nah, by me. I'm like, yo, when you say the city, it's New York City. You gotta say something else, you know what I mean? Like, New York City is the city. But, whatever. And, I would look out for really, really close, like, if I was really close, LI cats. You know what I mean? I wouldn't keep them. I had to make one for myself. I already told the story. Well, I was scared as hell. I ain't gonna act like a tough guy, like, oh, that was my shit. I did it all the time. Scared as hell, not of getting beat up, of getting caught and getting a charge for that. But I had to help somebody, so I hit him a few times. I don't know how far it went through. If it went through, he was wearing his sweater, not a coat. He was wearing a state sweater. But I hit him pretty hard. A couple people like were punching him too. Like it was a thing. So, and one time I had to cut someone. That's another one I'll tell you. I don't know how they do it, but a lot they get the number 11s in the prison all the time, very easily. They say, like they wrap it. The girls wrap it in electric tape, and they pussy, and they pass it. Somehow they get the number 11. The number 11s are the surgical steel blades, like where you cut a body open, is surgical, surgical knife. The number 11 is the blade part, the like an X-Acto knife, you know what I mean, like something like that. So I get a piece of one, one of them, or if you can get someone's razor, like shaving razor, and break, and you'll get caught if you don't have your razor. You're going right to the box. Or there's some spots where you give your ID to get a razor, and then when you give it back, you throw it away in the razor box where you can't get back in, and then you get your ID back. But you got to show them the razor first. You could put like a paper in there, you know what I mean, and put because you could put the razor back together and show him it, especially if he's one of the cool COs, like you don't give a fuck about nothing. He'll be like, all right, give you an ID, and then boom, you got a razor. What I do, you break it and you double it up. You double the razor up because it's going to make it stronger. Because they're not, you guys know, right? Razors aren't strong. And I'd put it in pretty much a toothbrush handle, and I would put it in sideways, and I would really, really, really wrap it, and you have it. Sometimes I'd make them really small, where it's just the blade and just enough over the blade so you can hold it like this. The only thing showing is the razor blade. So what they would do is walk behind you on the way to chow, anything, pretty much chow, all programs, and they would walk behind you, and they would put that blade to your cheek and push your head forward while they're pulling back, and your safety would punch that guy right after in that spot, and if he didn't get knocked down, he would get shocked. That he wouldn't know what to do. I've seen it a million fucking times, a million. You think, oh, if a nigga cut me, I'd run up there, I'd be fucking him up, I wouldn't get. You get a cut from your lip all the way up past the ear, and you could see the molars past the cheek, like they cut through it. I seen molars through a cheek, and you're stuck. You don't know what to do because you don't want it to widen up. You're not fighting. You're like, oh shit, and then you're like, they try to hold it down with their scarves or whatever, and then report that they fell in the bathroom in the dorm. So you're not a rat, or making half of those people, or some people just went right to a cop because they need some help right a fucking way, and they say they don't know who did it. That's what you say. I don't know who did it. I just got cut and punched. I didn't even see him, and that's what you say. But I would make those as well. I made those good, and that's how you do it. You can get it from the razor that you get. And a lot of people stole other people's razor from their lockers. If you kept your razor and once a week you showed you had your razor, sometimes people would steal it, and those guys would go to the box. But those number 11s were crazy. But like I said, you doubled up the razor to make it stronger, and it would make a fucked up cut. And what other people would do with their razors, like with whatever tool they have to cut, because some of them had like some plastic or almost glass, and they were working like at the shop or whatever, and they were able to like almost grind it down to a razor blade. So they had like a big knife. It was crazy. Well, they just had a piece of plastic and they just made it smaller and wrapped it so they got a handle, and they got a big piece of plastic that big, and they sharpened it so they got a knife, like a kitchen fucking knife. And that shit was crazy, you know what I mean? But a lot of people who would use the blades, not a lot, some of them, when they took a crap, they would make sure they went in the toilet bowl, they would rub the blade on it, they would piss on the blade, they would do a whole bunch of stuff. So when they did cut you, you're getting a bad infection, you're getting all types of shit in there. So it ain't gonna heal right. You know what I mean? You're gonna see it. You know, people say, "Oh, you got a pussy on your face." You know, every time you're brushing your teeth, you're gonna remember me. You know, and that's true. That is true. I've seen so many people have a cut. When you go, hopefully you never go, but if you go to prison, you're gonna see tons. I'm saying 3 out of 10. That's a lot. That's a lot of fucking people, because sometimes it's 1,800 inmates. Like in Green, there was 1,800 inmates. Like 3 out of 10 had a cut, had some sort of cut on their face. Some of them had real serious ones, and some of them just had the little one because they moved quick enough, you know, so it wasn't that bad. But that's how I would make them. You know, that's how I would make them. But I'm going to tell you, the worst one I've ever seen was in, I forgot. I want to say, whatever's all the way to the left. I forgot where they had that paper deuce. It was that spot. Fuck. Collins 1. I seen it. Collins 1 was small. It made the street news because we had the paper deuce. They were putting it on the like happy birthday cards. The liquid deuce. They were putting more on it, and a piece the size of like this much. They would break that piece of paper up and put some cigarette tobacco. You'd have an epi. An episode. You know, they call it an episode. Epi. Like where you bug out and can't control yourself, and the cops are like, get up, you know, like, or you do something very weird in front of the cops because you're all weird, or you get stuck in the bathroom and you ain't leaving that toilet bowl because you can't, because you're stuck. You know, we made the street news for that shit because 39 people on the first day went to the hospital. Then after that, when they went to the box, they had the paper deuce in their books. You get your books, you know, like on your second or third day, your property, you could pick up to 5 books. They had their books in there, you know, and they had their paper deuce. So the ambulance had to come up on the property in the box too, you know, like that shit was evil. Because at first they were selling it like that big for a brick, you know, a pack of cigarettes. But then when 39 people dropped, they knew their shit was tough. So they started selling a piece like that for $10. You know, the corner. Piece like that, $10. And was it worth it? Abso-fucking-lutely. Because you did not need a lot. You better respect it. And if you hold it in, you're fucked. You gotta hold it in like it's a little longer than a cigarette. You know what I mean? Like, not even weed. Like, cause I hold, you know, when you do smoke weed, you hold it in and then you blow it out. You might have an epi. You know what I mean? Like, you might have an epi. But that's how you make knives in prison. Oh yeah, but the reason why I said Collins is the worst weapon I've seen. It was in the shower. I'm pretty sure it was fucking Collins. It might not have been, but I'm pretty sure it wasn't in Collins. It wasn't. I forgot where it was, but I was in the shower. All that, you know, this was, you know, some of them is everybody showers. There's 7 showers. You know, when you shower, you wear boxer shorts, so whatever. But when it's a single shower, when it's nobody, it's one person, you can take your shit off. But behind the shower, like the walls were like, I don't know, like a marble type of thing. but you could put your fingers behind it and and feel the real wall. And down there, you pulled it out, because I heard about it being there. I pulled it out, and the thing was this big. It was a railroad spike. It was like a railroad spike. It was the biggest nail I've ever seen. It has to be a railroad spike, like the ones they crack down and then crack over, so it stays down. I think they got their hands on a railroad spike. I don't know how the fuck that shit came in. They probably were an outside worker and got it in somehow, like put it on the property. I don't know, but it was in that shower, and fucking I moved it, because I ain't fucking having the wrong person have their hands on. Nobody knew. I took it out of that spot and put it in a different spot, in the shower. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't hide it in the dorm, because a piece that big, that's a sword. You got a sword. That's what they would call a sword. You start running up to people with a freaking railroad spike, that's it. You got a sword, you'll get 7 people backing up. Because nobody wants to get stabbed with that thing, especially if you're angry. You're going to stab whoever to save yourself. You're going to get, eventually they're going to get you if you don't get them. So get yourself kicked out. Fuck it. The right way, by the fight way. So peace out. That's the story. I hope, Wayne, I hope you liked that video, and I hope everybody else liked the video. I hope you learned something. So God forbid if you ever wind up in there, you know how to make it. But I don't know if they got those beds no more, because they started taking them out because people were making it that weapon. But there's other ways, and I told you. So I hope you have a good day, and I'll make a video soon. And request a video if you guys want to see one.